All right. If you have 2 blocks today, go ahead and grab 2. If we're going to do a floor block, and if you want your hands to be able to be up on that floor block, make that an option. So just if you have 2 yoga blocks, grab them. If not, no worries. You can have your hands on the floor. Okay. Come to standing, please. Take a minute to just ground your body. Feel your feet. And just notice where you're at today. And then go ahead and move into elbow curls. Fold your fingers into your palms. Bring your hands to your temples. Bring your elbows all the way together so they touch and all the way back. If you had a wall that you were close to, you could stand against the wall and start to address the front to back balance between your dynamic tension in your body. If not, just stand away from it. All the way together, all the way back.
Cookie bun. Yeah, cookie bun. Yeah, I have no underwear.
Where are your backpacks?
Maybe still in the car?
Guess so.
And 20. Great. Right into shoulder rolls, up and forward and around. 10 times, and then backwards. And as you go backwards, let your shoulder blades come all the way down your spine so that your spine has some articulation from the top all the way down to the bottom. Did Merrick's iPad not get plugged in then too? Okay. One more time, forward, up and around. Hi, Marlena. And backwards. Once again, feel the shoulder blades come together on your back. Let that articulation move your entire spine, one vertebra at a time, just a little bit. And then right into an arm circle. Put your fingers in that same golfer's grip, fingers to palms, palms stay open. Check your feet again, make sure they're straight ahead. Pinch your shoulder blades together and bring them up. Circle forward, 40 circles. Masks, Dad, masks. Mike, masks. Keep your shoulder blades really pinched together. Feel the arm bone hug into the shoulder into the as close to the spine as possible, and then relax your belly. Let your whole body react to the muscles that are extensor muscles up your back or retractors in your shoulder blades, and just get even. Go ahead and release them, and backwards. Squeeze again, and then circle backwards 40 circles. Keeping that pinch, arm bone into shoulder, shoulder into spine, and feel if it's even on both sides. That line of muscles goes all the way down the leg. It can start to change something in your knee. If you have a femur that's going medial, maybe it helps your lateral hip start to fire up and it pulls the leg out. Just, it can move the whole line of muscles, even though it feels like we're just doing it at the shoulder blades. Right into a windmill, arms out to the side. Exhale over to one side. Start to feel this grounding side pull down toward the floor so that you get lateral flexion in your spine, reaching this top side up toward the sky. Open up those vertebrae, open up the space between your ribs, those intercostals. Come on up and over. Pull down, push up, and breathe. And up and over. And up and over. One more each side. And then for those of us that might have one hip that likes to be a little elevated, that gets dropped when we take our legs out. So if there's a muscle in the front called your tensor fascia lata, that can pull, or quad muscle, can pull a hip into a rotation. As we abduct the legs, you change the relationship between the abductors and the adductors. And that can take that rotation out. You're also working the muscles in the back here, the quadratus lumborum, and some of your rotator muscles in your spine, like your multifidus. All the way over. All of those lengthening and contracting muscles bring balance to the pelvis and the leg bone, and may have an effect of reducing rotation or dropping an elevated hip. Go wider one more time. Squeeze your feet in towards each other and feel your inner thighs turn on. And then once again, over and up. Now, occasionally people that have disc issues, this doesn't work very well for them. So if you have a reason to need to take care of your body that this doesn't feel appropriate, please just skip it and then come back. Go ahead and bring your feet back in. Make sure the outer edges of your feet are pointed straight ahead. That might feel pigeon-toed. And then last one, over and up 3 times to each side today. And 3. Nice. Okay, standing and balancing, arms out to the side. Just start to load one side of your body and notice what happens to all the forces that are affected. Gravity is holding you. When we shift onto one side, it changes all of the things about how your body has to balance in space. And then take that leg out to the side as high as you can get it and bring it back in. Do that 10 times. Out and in. Finding your abductors of your hip, keeping your spine pretty stable. And switch sides. Just feel it, what happens as you come into a balance on that side. Arms out to the side and lift and lower. And then we're going to go into a hamstring curl. So this time, find the balance on one side again, load that leg, belly relaxed, shoulders back. Now, as you pull on this hip, it's going to want to tip your pelvis forward because it's stretching some of those two joint hip muscles. Pull it up, see if you can get your heel to touch your butt and keep this pretty stable. Down and up 10 times. Shoulders just relaxing so that the whole line of muscles can react. As you shorten this hamstring, that whole line all the way up your back changes. All the way up to the base of your spine. And switch. Just allowing that lateral hip to stabilize. Knee pointing straight down to the floor. Just load that leg and feel abductors and adductors come in together to help stabilize you on a single leg. Maybe your butt muscle kicks in a little bit. And then curl. Excellent. First side again. Load it up. 10 curls. Shoulders just relaxing. Deep breath into your belly. Curl it up and down. And switch. Excellent. Now bring your leg up. So we're going to imagine that there's a hurdle. You're going to bring your leg up, then go ankle wide over the hurdle and all the way back. And then come back over the hurdle. So like cow pees on a fire hydrant or dog pees on a fire hydrant. Sorry, there's a cow upstairs in my house today. So I was thinking cow instead of dog. Then back the other way over the hurdle, rotating that leg out. So taking that ankle high, keeping your torso as high and stable as possible, bringing that leg back behind you, keeping that hamstring curl as it goes down, bring it in, then up, wide, all the way around and through. Working all of that hip rotation. Let's do 3 more. That standing, stabilizing leg should really be working. One more. You can do it. Good. And switch sides. So bringing that leg up, rotate the leg. So internal rotation of the hip, bringing that leg out, stable trunk as much as you can, taking it out and around. Then knee goes high over the hurdle, coming back around. Rotate at the hip, around, back through. I think we've got one more here. Excellent. So all those muscles around your hips should be turning on. You could do some circles, feel them all as they work, how the hip interacts with the pelvis. And then come down onto your hands and knees for some cats and dogs, and bring your 2 yoga blocks if you've got them. Otherwise, you can just do it on the floor, like I said. Come on to your hands and knees. Let's play with cats and dogs a little bit today. So start at the base of your tailbone and go ahead and lift your tailbone. Start the arch right at the top of the sacrum and let it move through your low back, into your middle back, into your upper back, finally all the way between your shoulder blades and neck, extending, and then tuck your chin and let the curl happen from the top all the way through the neck. Then press your chest up so that your pecs are engaging on the front side of your body. And then ribs start to pull in. Pull your ribs and your pubic bone closer to each other as you go into flexion. Take your tailbone down toward the floor. Full flexion. Good. Start at your tailbone again. Go into extension, lifting your tailbone, moving through the middle back, rotating the pelvis over the top of the thigh bones, then pubic bone and rib cage away from each other, moving in opposite directions, all the way into your head and neck, lift, and then head goes down, tuck your chin, curl, start to press up through your shoulder blades, protracting your shoulder blades off your back, pecs engage, belly engages, feel your abdominal muscles turn on, moving your pelvis down, tailbone down toward the floor. And then just move more fluid, more watery. Take your pelvis around in a circle, your rib cage around in a circle. Just play with that a little bit. How else can you move, not just straight up and down? And then maybe just some fluid cats and dogs, down and up. Moving through your shoulders, moving through your back, and then come down onto your belly. I am going to use my blocks today, double blocks. Arms straight, hands in that same golfer's grip. So fingers curled, palms open, and then place your arms up on your blocks. Let your head go down and pigeon toe your feet. We're going to hold this for 1 minute in 3 positions. Again, if your arms are just on the floor, that's totally fine. Just stretch them out and then rotate from the shoulder outward so that you're holding your thumbs pointing away from each other, but that rotation happens at the level of the shoulder. And then find your breath, let your front ribs tuck under a little bit and just breathe into that. You may even press gently down into the block so that your lat muscles, the muscles on the side of your body here, and your serratus, that helps to move the shoulder blade as you pull your arm down. Those muscles can also turn on. And now move them out to the corners of your mat. And rotate your arms back. And hold and breathe. Big full breaths into your rib cage, in through your nose. Feel all of your ribs expanding with each breath. Notice if you have different rotation between one arm and the other. So as we move the arm into this, how well does your rotator cuff, the muscles that rotate the arm bone in the shoulder socket, how well do those work on both sides? And then go straight out from your shoulders. More like a T shape. Same thing, one more minute. Arms out. Rotate that rotator cuff back. Feel the muscles on the underside of the armpit. Lengthen your side body. Even a gentle press down into the floor would be okay. Or into your blocks. Rotating that arm bone out gives you access to the rotator cuff muscles. The rotator cuff, when the rotator cuff turns on well and it holds the arm bone in the shoulder socket like it's supposed to, the shoulder blade can come onto your back. And then we can ask for this thoracic extension, these 12 vertebrae in the middle of your back that we want them to be pretty mobile, but they can get kind of stuck, especially if you sit at a desk or like to bike a lot. And release. Come back onto your hands and knees and just integrate that a little bit. That arm bone position into your shoulder. Maybe it's easier for your shoulder blades to come onto your back now and slide toward your spine. Strong elbows. We're going to do a sequence that all acts as a rotation. So 5 moves that are all like rotations. And we'll start here on your hands and knees and go into a hand leg opposite lift. Hold it up there. Bring it down and switch. Lift. Bring it down, switch. Go ahead and take it as high as you can. You have a line of fascia on the back side of your body that goes from this shoulder across your whole back to this opposite hip. And see if you can just allow that entire line of fascia to kind of talk to each other as you take it up. Butt to the opposite shoulder, through your back. One more. Excellent. Now come down onto your back. We're going to go into cross crawling. So both legs straight and arms straight on the floor. And then imagine that your opposite hand and opposite knee are connected by a string. And as you lift your arm up, your knee bends, and you can let that knee bend all the way in towards your chest and then set it down. All the way up. Switching the side and all the way down. Now, in an ideal world, this knee and foot would stay exactly stable. Your pelvis would be held by the floor, and we get a slide or a spin in this hip socket that just spins correctly without what they call anterior glide or posterior glide in the hip. So just imagine, so we can use our visualization, that hip socket is just turning just correctly in that hip as your pelvis is held stable, and that as that happens, there's good lubrication in that hip joint, and your abdominals have to engage appropriately to stabilize so that action can happen. All the way up, all the way down. If you would like this level of demand, you can stay right here. If you'd like to take it up a notch, you can switch at the top. So holding the arm and leg here, and then switch at the top of that. And that will increase the need for how much abdominal support you have to hold your pelvis stable. So transverse abdominis turns on more, a little bit of rectus abdominis stabilizes as well. And again, this move can act like a rotation in your body because it's working the two sides across the spine or across the abdomen. Excellent. Pull both knees into your chest and just allow your back to feel like it goes mostly flat to the floor, and then bring your knees kind of to neutral and take them all the way over to the right. Your whole right side being down on the floor, stack your knees. You can take your right hand and just hold your knees, and then open up your upper arm and allow your arm to move and your spine to move. And if you feel like you get a little stuck, if you pull your knees up a little bit more even, that increases the hip flexion. Your primary hip flexors will turn on and stabilize your pelvis more, and usually that lets your whole upper back untwist a little better. Breathe. Feel your obliques, the muscles that twist you in your belly. Let it wring out some of those organs. Untwist. Roll to the other side. Knees stacked, left hand on top of your leg, and then open up the right arm. Again, you can bend your knees a little higher than 90 degrees, and that would help the hip stabilize and allow for even more release in your upper body. Go slowly, listen to your body move. You have all these facets, on the side of each of the vertebrae, joints that need to move and articulate through your whole spine to get that full rotation to happen. Some of those joints are what chiropractors will adjust. If they get a little off, they can get stuck, and they can be quite painful and annoying. Untwist. Roll onto your back. Feet on the floor, knees bent. Now cross your left ankle over your right knee. And then bring the whole thing down to the right side on the floor. Relax your right leg. And then press your left knee away from your body so that you're getting some external femur rotation, this bone, the femur, moving out away from you. Turn your head. You can take your shoulder blades underneath you a little bit. Breathe. Stay there. Hold on.
crossover we use if there's a difference of something happening in the lumbar spine. We use it if there's a hip disparity. So any anterior or posterior tip in your pelvis, one side going forward, one side going back. So if you had a quad or a hip flexor that was stronger or tighter on one side, we can use a hip disparity to help take that out. Go ahead and switch sides. So now cross the right ankle over the left knee. Bring it all the way down to your left side on the floor. And then press your knee away from you, palms down, shoulders gently underneath you. Open up that hip. All right, one more today. This time we'll go modified IT band stretch. So let's go a couple knee drops. Knees to the right and knees to the left. Right and left. And then right again. And this time take your right heel and hook it on top of your left knee. And then reach your left arm all the way over your head. And just let that move through that entire side of your body, from the shoulder through the hip. And breathe again into this quadratus lumborum area. If you have something going on with your TFL, just let that whole side open. Come on up, switch, knees over, heel on top of your right knee, pulling it down. Breathe, and then take your right arm over your head and let that whole side open. From the shoulder, underneath the armpit, into the side of your waistline. Let all of that have space. And come on up. Both feet pointed straight ahead, and rock your hips backward and forward. Back and forth. Pelvic tilts. Okay, so that was our 5 rotations. Now come into a kneeling groin stretch. Grab your strap so that we can do that pull at our shoulders. So left foot forward, right foot back, kneeling groin. Make sure your left foot is far enough forward that as you bring your knee over, you're not going ahead of your toes or ankles. Square your hips, and then holding onto your strap, just pull shoulder blades down and back, pull away from you, and see if you can access muscles in your middle back that help your hips open more. And just sink into that. Feel how you can open that back hip, let that front hip move so that you're in basically to hip extension on that back hip and full hip flexion on this front hip. Asking the pelvis to do 2 different things. Shoulder blades down and back and pulling apart just to have access from the shoulder blades all the way into the pelvis. And then if you can, add your toes. Lift your toes and press your toes down and see if we can access that posterior chain. Also, feel as you press your toes down that your hamstring engages and your butt engages on that front hip. And that may even let that back hip go some more. And then release. Going into that groin stretch. Ears over shoulders over hips. And then take your strap and just pull apart. Find muscles in the shoulders and around the shoulder blades, that middle back area. And then just allow your hips to open. And then lift and press your toes down into the floor. And release. And then cats and dogs. Round and arch. And then come down onto your belly. We're going to go after hips a little bit more. So just fold your hands under your forehead and bend your knees. Bring your knees together so they touch. And then let your ankles fall away from each other. So we're going into that internal rotation at your pelvis again. Relax everything else. And then bring your ankles back together. And just control that. Out and in. Let's do 20 of those. Feel the muscles in your hips that allow for that rotation to happen. Notice if you feel like you get crooked or rotate. Okay, now, if it feels appropriate for you, come up onto your elbows. And just relax your upper body. Let your chest kind of fall into that. And then we're going to do those same active ankle ones again. So now you're in more thoracic extension, lumbar extension. If this doesn't feel okay to you, just do another set just like we just did, just resting on the ground. You could even put a pillow under your belly if you needed to. If it feels like just even lying on your belly is too much. But if you're okay with it here, shoulder blades sinking, move them down away from your back a little bit, but just let them relax. And then move your hips. So we're asking for thoracic extension, a little bit of lumbar extension while we do these rotations.
How wide are your knees, Kyra?
Touching, knees touching.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Out and in. And you'll feel a lot of little muscles around your sacrum working. So be gentle in there. Okay, now release out of that. That may be a little stiff. Fold your hands under your forehead again. Now we're going to go into a pre-crawl position with your legs. So we're doing a lot of hip rotation today. You're going to bend your left leg up. Then move your knee out so that your heel can come down kind of on the inside of your calf on that other side. So that full hip rotation. Now, it shouldn't be a lot of rotation up here. You're going to have a little bit, but that hip, that external rotation should be able to happen mostly there. And then slide that leg in. Let's stay with the left leg and do this 10 times. So leg up, all the way into hip to knee flexion, and then slide that knee wide, let the hip rotate, bringing the ankle down, then up, slide it back in, and release. Up, slide the leg in, down. So we just did internal rotation at the femur. Our body is being held by the floor, so not a lot of extra rotation can happen. Our spine is staying straight. Couple more. Now move to the right side and do the same thing. Curl it up. Move the knee wide. Let the hip rotate so that the foot's coming down to the inside of that calf. Then back up, back in, and release. Up, out, in, release. Up, slide it out, in, release. Awesome. Roll onto your back. One leg up in the air. Let's use that hip that we just found, that new hip position. So one leg in the air, lift the other up off the floor, 20 lifts. Shoulders gently tucked behind you. Hamstring, butt, low back, all working. Gently press your head into the floor. And switch. 20 lifts. And release. Grab your block. Place it between your knees. Squeeze and release your block. Hug in, find your adductors, release. Pelvis stable. Squeeze, release. Ten more. Go ahead and take your block away. Up on your toes, back on your heels. 20 times. Rolling it all the way up. Getting the muscles of your feet and ankles to talk all the way up into your knees, into your pelvis, into your upper back. Have fun, baby.
Thank
Okay. Do a few wrist rolls before you load your wrist up again into a downward facing dog pose. So now we can assume that we have a better shoulder position, better rib cage position, more even pelvic position. Tuck your toes under. Let's link it all together. Shoulders into hips. Pressing up and through your hands. If you're working on getting your back straight, keep your knees bent and press really through your arms. Work your hips. If you have that pretty well and work your legs towards straight, you can go for that also. Two different exercises. They achieve different things, but they both work well. You can pedal out your calves a little bit. If your legs can go straight, can you tighten your thighs so much that you feel it not just around the kneecap, but up toward the hip? In the full knee extension. And then come on down into your runner's stretch, putting your left heel in front of your toes, and then coming up, stretching both legs straight, working your front knee towards straight. Your back knee could bend a little. You can play in that. Just feel how to move that. And then switch sides. Tucking those toes under. Working your legs towards straight. And again, your back knee can bend. You can just play in this a little bit. And then eventually work both legs towards straight again. Just breathe as your pelvis rolls over the top of the leg bone. And then feet to straight and come up, roll up or bend your knees and come up and find a spot for an air bench. sliding down your wall, pressing your low back to flat. You don't have to go all the way down. I think it says 110, but somewhere between 110 degrees and 90 degrees. Get low. Press your back flat to the wall. You can start with it really round and then begin to work your low back to flat. Feel like you're zipping up your pants. Those low belly muscles come into play. And then one vertebra at a time. Coming up. Feeling that in your body until you get all the way up to where your head and shoulders are on the wall. Thoracic extension. See if you can still press your back flat into the wall there. Quads are working. Air bench is a great exercise. We use it a lot to reduce any rotation that might still exist in your body. So something still a little bit tweaked in your pelvis or tightness in your back. If we started to extend your back and there was tightness in your back, air bench can take it right out. As long as it's okay on your knees, see if you can keep the weight in your heels. Lift your toes off the floor even. Find those quads, find the arches. Can you find all those quad muscles? And gently come on out of it. Nice job today, everybody. Feel that, walk around, feel that in your body. Hopefully you have more open shoulders, more freedom and movement in your hips, easier movement through your spine. All that stuff. All right, come down onto your back or into seated for just a couple minutes. And you can take your legs up over a chair or just put your legs out straight on the floor or sit, your choice. And then keep your eyes open today. And allow your visual field to just be as broad and big as possible. Come to be aware of your breath as it moves in and out of your body. And just notice what arises in the fields that you can pay attention to. Your visual field, your auditory field, your sensory field. What allows you to just be here in the moment? Follow the next 3 breaths. Noticing those fields. Feel it move in your body. Notice where it goes. How do you stay present with this one more aspect of adding the visual field to the space? One more breath. Follow it. And then go ahead and close your eyes and just have the contrast of staying present with your eyes open or turning off one of those fields and experience the next 3 breaths this way. And then open your eyes. See if you can hold the same presence you have with your eyes closed, once again with your eyes open. And then move anything else you want to move. And come back around. If you'd like to say something, please